Welcome to another special edition of Bigfoot and the Bunny for the Paranormal UK Radio Network. This week we talk to Tom D'Agostino, and a little bit later we talk a little bit with Arlene Nicholson, whom together form a paranormal super couple that is the author of more than 16 books, including Rhode Island's Haunted Ramtail Factory, Connecticut Ghost Stories and Legends, A History of Vampires in New England, among many other titles that are just wonderful and pretty much locally based here in the New England area that we're from, and Tom and Arlene are also from. And it was wonderful to talk with them and get in depth about some of these stories, in particular Rhode Island's Haunted Ramtail Factory, because that is a place that Kristen and I visited recently. We did get a couple of EVPs while we were there, but more importantly, we kind of had some paranormal experiences. Kristen heard her name called out. It did not show up in the recorders, but she heard it. And we were hearing just odd noises, and it was a very strange feeling about the whole location. The experience is definitely a large part of investigating. It shouldn't all be about the data, although we did get a little. We weren't really planning on doing too much. We were just kind of decided on a whim to go out that afternoon. It was daylight. It's a beautiful scenic area along a river, the Pomegranate, and you walk down a trail to get to the remnants of the Ramtail factory. And it was wonderful. It was a beautiful day. We really enjoyed that. And we are looking forward to getting together with Tom and Arlene and going back down there in the coming weeks, as well as maybe visiting them on one of their hosted events. Now, they host events called Dining with the Dead, which includes dinner and an investigation. You can find out more information about Dining with the Dead by going to www.diningwiththedead1031.com. being the Halloween, of course, 1031. So www.diningwiththedead1031.com. You can see events like investigations and dinner at the Public House in Sturbridge, Massachusetts, as well as the Colonial Inn, which is quite haunted. From what I've heard, we haven't been there yet. We've been planning to go for some time. But that's in Concord, Massachusetts. So if you're in the New England area, that is definitely something to check out and look up. They have dinner, and you can investigate later. They provide a lot of equipment and let you more or less do the investigation, which is really cool. They were a lot of fun to talk to, and Tom is a wonderful musician and apparently a collector of instruments. I think he said he had something like 100 different guitars in his location, and we could certainly see some of them in like a lute and different things in the video while we were talking, and it was completely interesting. They're very nice, and we're looking forward to getting together in the coming weeks. I'd like to play a couple EVPs that we did collect on our just one trip to Ramtail. The first one is a Help Me EVP, which I think we were joking about in the interview because it does seem like I have a pretty good collection of Help Me EVPs in particular, and as well as, I guess the number 2 phrase I get is get out. So they're kind of funny when you put them together. It's help me, now get out. And they don't usually happen together. However, it is something to think about. And let me play that for you now. As you can hear, it is a very subtle EVP, but nonetheless, there it was, help me. And this next EVP is kind of interesting. We couldn't quite make it out, and we'll let you guys decide what it says, but you'll hear a voice talking over mine. Okay. Let's see. Oh, if I'm recording it. Okay. Let's see. So that was odd. The experience of being in Ramtail was what was actually more intense to us. Kristen heard her name called out and thought, someone was talking to her, yet there was nobody there. And we kept hearing just odd noises. It was a very strange feeling about the whole location where we were. And it is a beautiful location. It's a wonderful day trip, a great hike. You go down a path and you can see where the factory was. There aren't a lot of remnants of it, but you can see where that was, and there were some other buildings that had been built. And we'll get into the history in this interview. And just to let you know up front, we did have some internet connection issues, and it created a sort of delay. So forgive that. It gets better as the interview goes on. And I've chopped off some of the introductory stuff that we were blabbing about just to wait really for Tom to reconnect and get going. So you're getting the best of it. And without further ado, here is that interview. Welcome to Bigfoot
and the Bunny.
This is a couple's journey into the mysterious,
the unknown, and the paranormal.
I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm your host, Kristen Johnson.
Together we are Bigfoot and the Bunny. We recently investigated a place in Rhode Island, in Foster, Rhode Island, called the Ramtail Factory. And we've commented it and talked about the history, probably poorly, on the show before. And I know I mentioned that we need an expert on this. And so I reached out to the man who comes up when you look up Ramtail Factory. His name is Tom D'Agostino. And we're going to bring him right on just because we're running late here. So, hey, Tom, how you doing? Can you hear us okay? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I can. How are you doing?
Good. All right.
There we are.
We had a little bit of a strangeness there because we were talking before the show.
There you go.
I went and clicked our intro video, and it all seemed to freeze up.
And all of a sudden it was gone.
So
it was really bizarre. Things like this happen to us all the time.
Internet gremlins are our enemy. So I was just telling our audience about Ramtail recently, and wanting to know more, and knowing basically the story about Peleg, but man, we wanted to hear it from you.
Okay. Well, if we start from the very beginning, the Earth cooled, and then Peleg Walker actually was the son-in-law of William Potter. William Potter came from Warwick, Rhode Island, and he had some money. He knew that this was like a future area that may get populated someday. So they wanted to start a mill. And he bought some land from Polly Brown, and his brother-in-law, his son, Peleg Walker, and another son-in-law founded the Foster Woolen Manufacturing Company. Okay. And they were doing pretty well. I mean, it wasn't big, but by standards of Foster, it was. And basically, Peleg Walker began to buy a lot of stuff. In fact, he actually bought and started his own little enterprise in Burrillville, Rhode Island, which is right next to Foster. And he got into a bit of trouble, I guess. He bought land out that was skirted around the factory area. And then on May 22nd, May 19th, 1822, he was found dead in the factory. His ghost started haunting the place. That wasn't the first death in that factory, though. But according to legend, he had gotten into an argument with the owners saying that, that someday they would have to take the keys to the factory from the pocket of a dead man. And lo and behold, he had committed suicide in the factory. But we actually found, my wife and I searching, we actually found documents showing that his shares in the factory and some pieces of land were turned over to William Potter and his son Only Potter about a day and a half before he was found dead. And these documents were signed at almost 1 o'clock in the morning, but he didn't sign them. Someone else signed them for him.
They were forged. Like a forged signature.
A forged signature.
Well, yeah, it wasn't his signature. And at 1 o'clock in the morning in 1822, you would be using a candle. No one would be up in the first place. And you would be go by candlelight because kerosene lanterns were invented until 1853.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it seems very suspicious, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because Mary Potter, his wife, was William Potter's daughter, used to also co-sign everything. This she didn't even co-sign either. In fact, it was months later that she agreed that the deeds were, in fact, that she agreed to the deeds, which was one was given the land around the factory, his shares in the factory, the land that his father gave him upon their marriage, and something, a few other things. But then William Potter turns around and gives the land back to Peleg's father. So there was something really strange going on.
Yeah, it seemed like Peleg was getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
Something happened, yeah. And then, of course, he began to haunt the mill. The bell would ring at night. The mill would start up by itself. They saw his ghost a few times. And perhaps they saw the lantern, light, which we see to this day. And there was another death at the factory also. And that was, his name was Jonathan Buckland. And he actually owed the Potters money. They may have made him a night watchman or at least gave him a job to pay them back because they took his land. He put the land up for as credit, collateral. And when he couldn't pay the money back, they actually took the land. And he committed suicide in the factory in 1817.
Wow. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with him.
No, not at all. We never heard of him.
That's
why
really
we have
interesting.
the expert on.
Some bad things happened on this land, and for the listeners who don't know, it's called the Ramtail Factory, and the Ramtail, I think, was a reference to the cotton that they made, right?
Yeah, there's it's almost a familiar kind of nickname for these kind of factories, but yeah, when they brought the wool to be spun into cloth, sometimes when they spun it to cloth, they cut the wool and the little naps would fall on the floor in curly cues like ram's tails.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So after Peleg's passing, he was seen, right, ringing the bell. And I know there was different things, and eventually we get into the lanterns, and then they try to remove the rope and then the bell, and it persisted.
Yeah, then I guess he decided to make the factory run. So in the middle of the night, the factory would start up by itself with all the spindles and everything running full tilt, which means somebody had to start the wheel. And one night, the wheel was running opposite the flow of the river. And that's when I guess a lot of people freaked out and started leaving, because it was not only a factory, it was actually a little village as well. It had homes and a store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's actually all that stuff is covered by woods now, right? I know when we went out there, a whole lot to see. You can see some of the stone walls. You can see where the wheel was by that river. And excuse me, I can't remember the name of the river, but it's sitting right on that body of water and kind of separated where the wheel would turn and power the mill. Ponagansett, yeah, exactly. Very interesting. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, the mill is right there. I actually have one of the weights to the Taunton speeder that was in the mill. They only had one Taunton speeder, And the weights would do is you'd use that, it would slow the thing down or speed it up to the flow of the water. And I found one of them out there when we were doing metal detecting. And there's the general store, the remains of that across from the mill ruins. And then there's just before that, you'll see a well and about 4 houses, foundation of mounds, which were part of house foundations. I know where all of it is.
Now, a lot of people attribute the lanterns and hauntings to actually another dwelling, if you will, or foundation that's further down the river, right? Isn't there one that's more constructed? And we didn't find that on our particular day that we were out there, but we have a general idea where it was, or if you just kind of go past where the Ramtail factory is, you'll hit this. I don't know if that was the store or for another mill, another business,
or actually, actually, when you get to where you got to cross the river, there was a beaver dam there. There is again now. You can cross if you cross the beaver dam. Walk up a little ways, you get to what used to be the Rounds Farm. I have an aerial of it from 1940s. And at that point, it was all there. The house was there, the other house, the barn, it was all there. But now you can see just the foundation of the barn, the foundation of the home, because you can see the basement where the fireplace was, the foundation of another outbuilding, which may have been a regular woodshed or something like that, a milking shed. The remains of a birthing shed, and further in the woods is the cemetery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were wondering where that was located.
Yeah. You know, you get out on YouTube, and there's a lot of information out there. Not all of it's correct. But as Lise Carlson, who said hi to all of us, says it's a fantastic hike. And it certainly is. It's beautiful out there. And hey, Elise, how you doing? Elise, of course.
It sure is.
Paranormal. Yep. Yeah, it is. It's awesome out there. We thought it was beautiful.
Hi, Elise.
We had a nice day, and it's a good time of year to get out there. So we're looking forward to going back. I know just for our own data collection, just going out the one time, we got an EVP and some other kind of interesting data. We kept hearing things. Kristen heard her name called behind her, which was odd, and we were looking for a source of that. And
yeah, and then it was like they were trying to get our attention, and it was banging on the rocks behind us.
Weird banging noise we couldn't really determine the source of.
Yeah,
but you got the river noise, and there's some other things going on. But it was not. I wouldn't say it felt spooky or evil in any way, but there was something about it. There was something going on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we actually it was about 2:30 in the afternoon. We were doing a little vigil on the road that led to the factory. And while we're sitting there, this ball of light comes literally, like it was cloudy. There was no in other words, the sun was out, but it was cloudy. And so it couldn't have been like a beam of light or a shadow. This ball of light literally comes across between 2 or 3 of us, sits there for a second, and then takes off.
Oh,
wow. In the afternoon.
Wow.
I did see that during the day. That's really unusual.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Yeah, we've seen the light before. We've seen the lantern too.
Yeah, is that right? And did you see it right at the Ramtail factory, or was it at one of the other locations?
No, it was once coming up the path toward the factory and once in the factory. And one of the first times I was there, it was a very long time ago, I was with my friend John. This was like in the 90s. We actually what looked like an apparition. It never formed into a person, but it was floating around what would have been the first floor of the factory, moving in between the trees. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe it. So that's good. And you have a book actually on that, detailing Peleg's tragedy, if you will. Right, The Haunting of Ramtail Mill. We saw that out there, and you're author of a lot of books, more than I had realized. And I apologize for that. I knew you had a few out, but when we actually went,
Arlene and I have.
Wow, look at the substantial library.
There's like 15 or 16 of them. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Actually, we have 14 books and 2 that were adapted for middle school reading.
Wow. No kidding.
That's really cool. Wow. Never heard of that before.
Yeah.
So I want Gail Topping. She, you gotta look at the
Rhode Island accent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are from Rhode Island, and Rhode Island has a very unique accent. We like the Rhode
And Elise says, he sounds normal to me. Laugh out loud. I'm like, he's us too. So.
And the subject of your books usually is more or less local hauntings in haunted New England. One that really caught my eye is the hauntings of Blackstone Valley, which I think was maybe one early on. If I'm not mistaken, I think you told me that you grew up in Smithfield. We're in Manville right now, is where our studio is, which is a town over. And I lived here as a child, and my first childhood experiences with the paranormal and happened right around the corner from where we are now. And they were somewhat pronounced. So, I've noticed that both of us have had haunted childhoods. A lot of our guests have. And did you have a haunted childhood? And what was it like growing up here? What got you into this stuff?
Well, yeah. We grew up in a haunted house, and I have 8 brothers and sisters. So my parents never really believed it too much because, so many kids in the house, anybody could be making noise. But after we moved out and they started hearing people walking around upstairs and stuff, they began to wonder what was going on. But what got me actually into the paranormal investigating and studying was I spent 6 days in a house in Situate, Rhode Island, a friend of mine had bought. And I was in college. He was going to turn it over, fix it and flip it. He bought it real cheap. And I only lasted 6 days there because I just couldn't sleep, and I needed to study and everything else. And that's when I started taking courses in college on like psychology, sociology, physiology, astronomy, meteorology and things like that to try and see where this was all coming from or what angle.
Sure, like a logical conclusion.
Right.
Yeah.
And were you able to find a logical conclusion?
Yeah. It's haunted. No, there are logical conclusions, but the more you know, the better you can, dig into things and look for that logical conclusion, or at least to me, this is scientific. You know what I mean? A lot of people say, "Oh, like it's not just dead guys running around." To me, it's very scientific. There's some sort of energy that we have not really studied intensely enough yet that makes this happen.
We completely agree with you.
Yeah,
we do. That's what we try to do as well.
We're always trying to figure out what is a ghost. That's one of our big quests. What is consciousness, and why are we manifesting some of this? Or, exactly. It's not just dead guys running around. Totally agree. There's more to it.
Yeah, we and we're energy. I mean, we are energy, and when our body dies, as we know, energy is not created. It's just like I say, it just changes form. Like if a tree dies in the woods and it falls, it starts to rot. Flowers grow from it. Things eat from it. Like bugs and things. The energy of that tree actually is transformed into many other more things. So our energy can stay around. And one reason I brought meteorology up is because meteorologists study pressure zones in large pockets. And what if a pressure zone could be the size of a table that could hold a certain energy?
Pressure zones are something that does come up if you keep good logbooks and that sort of thing on your investigations. It is one of the things that people should know, right? And I'm sorry, folks, I know we have a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, it's hard for us to know exactly what's going on because maybe someday, because until we can cross over and hang out with Elvis and Jim Morrison, I mean,
that's right.
And come back, we can only take it from our end.
Yeah,
That's true.
if we weren't dead yet, we definitely would be at that point. But yeah, I think that's great, and we agree with you on the science. It's kind of like undiscovered science. People can't seem to put their finger on what consciousness is, and we're kind of relegated to experiencing everything through our like 5 senses. Maybe 6, maybe you have a little bit of psychic ability, but whereas that is kind of like the gate right there. You can only take in what we can feel, touch, see, hear. I think it keeps us a little ignorant of the big picture of other things that might be happening.
Yeah, it kind of because of that. Yeah, I think like when people, thousands of years ago were looking up at the stars, and now here we are pulling samples from Mars, and it's just that kind of thing. This is still in its infancy. It may take hundreds of years.
Right.
That's true.
I agree. I agree. Do you think there is something though about locations like this area? I feel like there's just something about this part of Rhode Island that is just, I don't know. It seems a little haunted. I mean, it's a little bit biased. Again, it grew up in a house, and it's almost like the stereotypical poltergeist movie thing where supposedly we were in this house that had disturbed Indian burial grounds. And, I literally had I hear some bells going off, like clown, like dolls that talk to me and these sort of things. And were pretty nefarious. It would tell me things like, we're going to kill your parents tonight and that kind of stuff. I've talked about on air before. Really strange. I don't know if you know some of the history of these particular lands in this area, in Smithfield and Lincoln, that may point to.
Yeah. Don't forget, this was part of the glacial system too, and we do have a lot of underground streams and a lot of quartz. And quartz is a battery, especially mixed with water. That's a natural battery. That's a natural charge that can attract things. So New England being part of that old glacial system and really, I guess, rich in quartz and underground streams, we have a battery going on here.
Yeah, I think so. And Blackstone River, of course, is within, eyeshot of where we are now. Mm-hmm. And I would have to think that, people, civilizations, the Native Americans, maybe people before them, would gather around the river, would just be a place you would want to set up shop, being a food source and, water source and whatnot.
Yeah, plus the fact that we do have a very, I guess, violent past in settling this land between, King Philip's Wars and all these other wars. You got the French and Indian Wars. You got just all kinds of stuff like that. So you can also have some emotional scarring, some psychic scarring, some, all kinds of things like that. And this kind of builds, I guess, or it helps the battery or, the energy flow. And the Indians, yeah, they were definitely magical. I mean, they are, they know a lot more about the land and things like that kind of stuff that we really don't.
Right.
Yeah, we agree with you. We were just talking about that with one of our friends who brought up, it was Gail Heisman actually was talking about their culture and how like things like telepathy are just accepted, and certain psychic abilities are accepted in different cultures, which is much different than our own, where with these things, people question whether they exist and we're trying to prove it. If it's, you're born with it and it's a given that it's part of your society, it seems like there's a much higher prevalence of the telepathy and psychic experiences.
Yeah, because it's actually part of your, like you said, society, your daily upbringing and living.
Yeah. And it's just a given that people
probably just like going to Walmart for us now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. And it kind of like, how sad is that? Where there's the sheep walking into the Walmart, we should be home working on, talking with our minds,
right?
Analyzing our dreams or something.
I thought that.
And we've got a few comments out there. Say, Amy Zima, add me to your reading. Okay. See Ken Allen. Hey, Ken, what's going on? Hi from the Wizard's Table podcast, one of our favorites. We appreciate that. Yeah, so that's very interesting, and you had those experiences in that particular house in Situate, and that really sparked the curiosity. It does seem like a lot of our guests are people that take this, to heart and study it through their lives, had some kind of event, in their childhood or maybe even a little later that was the trigger. It's like that realization of like, this is real. Something I can't explain this. That seems to set people off, if you will.
Yeah, whatever was in that house. I mean, we actually had a window come out of its frame and roll across the floor simultaneously at the same time. We all were like frozen in place, and it was almost like something put us on pause. And another night, there was something glowing apparition that was in the parlor. And then another night, something came bolting up the stairs, and all that blew by us was a wind. It sounded like some crazy person just bolting up the stairs, coming after us, and a wind just blew by us. So it wasn't absolutely friendly, and it was very noisy, and it was it manifested in a physical ways too, so which is pretty wild.
Absolutely.
I kind of grew up like that, and I'm from Swansea, Mass, and the first house we lived in was I think it was built in the 1700s as well, and it was the place where King Philip's War started, and
Swansea, yeah.
it was extremely traumatic for my childhood, which got me to the point where I had to block everything out because it was like that all the time. They would do things. They were they weren't very nice at all.
No, mine weren't nice, but I didn't have it as long as Kristen did. And, she did repress these things, and it took a long time to get her into this stuff, which is interesting. But now you love it.
Yeah, like
I do it. The EVP we got at Ram's Tail was a help me. And I had this conversation recently about the help me's and get outs. And I know you've got a good collection of EVPs, and we'll talk about your website in a moment. Do you find that that's a common thing, and what does it mean to you? Help me and get out.
Yeah, that's kind of common. Get out. Get out is, I've had that a couple of times. We've had help me more. Help me almost seems like they've broken a barrier, and they need some help with something. Who knows what? Because or maybe it's like if they died some certain way or something happened, that is just an EVP that's being replayed, like a residual. So but we've gotten that at the public house even like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, it seems like a common one. I've got quite a few from different places, and it's just like, all right, we want to help, or get out. Okay. Help me now, get out.
Yeah.
It's usually not in the same recording, but it's just funny that it turns out that way. And as it turns out at Ramtail, we did get quite a clear help me there while we were there sitting by the river.
How about your names? Do you get your names a lot? It's like, how do they know our names? Do you ever get that?
I get my name a lot when we're at the public house because we do a lot of events there, and and we've actually had something call my name and say it's Mike. And I had a friend Mike who passed away, and he was like my brother, and he was really into all this and stuff, and he was a great musician. And I've had that happen several times.
Oh, so, that's
I've got my name.
No, the voice,
Yeah,
we've forgotten our names.
Yeah.
Wondered like
we record everything.
We saw that. Now let's talk a little bit about that.
We record everything, so we have tons.
You events Dining with the Dead, and I've got your web link, diningwiththedead1031.com there in our ticker. You do host events at the public house and other places as well. Do you want to talk a little bit? What's that experience like?
Well, what we do is we actually do them at the Public House in Sturbridge, Mass. We do them at the Hawthorne Hotel in Salem. We do them at the Colonial Inn in Concord, Mass. We do them at the Tavern on Main in Chepachet, Rhode Island, and we do them all in different places. And what happens is when people come in, and we actually do giveaways. We give away like shirts, we give away books and things like that. We'll give away pendulums and whatever stuff, really cool stuff. And we have dinner, and what we do is we explain all the equipment. We have tons of it, from very esoteric to the latest and most modern thing. And then we break into groups after we have the buffet dinner. And we do usually 3 to 4 groups. And each group will investigate one of the most haunted areas in the place. And then they'll cycle out until all groups have investigated all areas. Then we get back together. We have a little brief, get together final to see anything would happen, anything big, and then we'll go over all the evidence and we'll send it to everybody.
That's really cool. Yeah,
and they actually use the equipment.
And for people that don't know, these
they actually use the equipment.
The places you mentioned are all like very well-known haunted locations in New England, like the Colonial Inn and the Hawthorne Hotel in Salem. Certainly, is well known for being a haunted location. So is dinner included? I'm assuming dinner included there too.
Oh yeah, big buffet dinner. When we do the Hawthorne, a lot of times we do it during the day, and we have this great luncheon. It's awesome. But yeah, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Really awesome stuff. Lots of food, and then of course then we break into the groups, and you get to use the equipment. So the people use the equipment with us. They're not just following us; they are the investigators.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
sign up for that.
Sign up and come out and see you, because that sounds like a really good time.
There you go.
Idea of dining with the dead. I like the name right away. I'm assuming the 1031 is for Halloween in the web address.
Yeah, because dining with the dead is a kind of thing that you can find in Oregon. You can find it in South Carolina. So 1031 set us apart.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I like that.
And it's a very cool website. So I do recommend our listeners go out and check it out. You do got a bunch of EVPs and even some video on there as well. Some pretty interesting video.
We
noticed.
Actually, we put some on like that, and then we'll put some more on. But what we have is a pile of them, and we can only put so many on because sometimes we'll get because you got 4 groups going around 4 times, so you got 16 different sessions. And so sometimes, especially with the spirit box and the portal, we'll capture 20, something things that happen. And, you can't put them all on. So what we do is we tell the people, if you want all of them, just let us know. We'll email you everything personally.
That's great. I think maybe the hardest part of all that is listening back to all the data that you collect.
Yeah. It's very time consuming.
It sure is. It can take a while to get to that key moment.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, with the portal, it's pretty easy because you get the portal has certain spikes you can listen to really quickly. But yeah, the EVPs are tough.
How does that work, the portal? Can you tell us a little about that?
Thomas Edison believed that you could actually speak to the dead and they could speak back. He called them life units, and we all are or resonate or speak at a certain frequency. And he tried to invent a machine where he could say, "Hi, how are you?" And these whatever energy spirits, whatever people want to call them, would actually answer, and you could hear it through the machine. He died before he could perfect it, but he did give us his failures, like the light bulb, the phonograph record player, improvements on the telephone, all that kind of fun stuff. And Frank Sumption, amateur radioist and paranormal investigator, around 2004, actually came forth and perfected this baby much more than you could think. The only downside of it was there's so many frequencies out there now that, you can catch every ball game on the planet
Yeah.
at the
Right.
same time. So
Right.
what happened is somebody said, what if we could squelch down all these frequencies to maybe what's only in this room? And they came up with a great idea. And a lot of using paranormal investigations to begin with is like from everything else. And this idea was using a kind of a noise gate and an amplifier. The amplifier amplifies the ghost box. You hear it very loud, so the whole room can hear it. And then the noise gate squelches down the frequencies, so you're getting only basically what's in a little small vicinity. Instead of, you won't catch WBZ out of Boston.
Right.
Right.
But or Medford now. But you'll catch what's in the room.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a quest to kind of
In real time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, do
That's really
you
cool.
like using any kind of echo or reverb on those portal boxes?
I do use a small reverb just so if it happens fast, you can catch the trail end of it and hear it better. But I don't really use an echo or anything because I try to keep everything as natural as possible. Even the EVPs, when we get our EVPs, I may manipulate them a little, but then I'll turn them back to what they were.
What they were prior. You mean
Once I understand whether it is something or not.
Oh,
Sure.
like put them in Audacity or something and try to take the sound, like the hiss out or something. And yeah, that's what we do as well.
Yeah. Try to clean them up. This is a shortwave radio. We just started messing with this.
Oh,
This has just got the shortwave bands, and its reception is so terrible that it's
yeah.
pretty good from that, although it's hard to listen to. So, you can put this on and it's just it doesn't sweep. It's just going to give you the static. But I was looking at the research of, I believe her name is Annabella Cardoso, is a doctor who's been doing a lot of research with shortwave radio and capturing voices on there. And like, she's very adamant. She doesn't like the paranormal too much, but her research is really good. And she's adamant about not contaminating the data, like just getting this one frequency where there's nothing on it, and I guess focusing on it, and until something comes back and talks to her. And she has some very interesting recordings with that. So there's always something, and ways to look at it. I tend to think that sometimes those external frequencies or little bits of words in a sweeping band are kind of giving them food, if you will, to be able to communicate. Other times, I mean, that's clearly a car ad coming through there. It's, Vinny's Used Cars or something,
Yeah.
coming on HJY. And, other times, I think it turns into something. You'll hear the same voice as it goes through the band is a pretty good indicator you might be talking to the spirit.
Or like when we, like when we're at the public house and we're in the ballroom and in several different investigations, we have the name Becky come through. So, I mean, that's pretty interesting,
Did you,
and that's really like right there, Becky. That's it. Nowhere else, just in there.
just in that one room. And did you find any history that correlated with the Becky?
Just in that one room. At one time it was a female boarding house, all female boarding house, and then of course this inn has been around since 1771. So who knows how many people come and gone and work there and live there and whatnot.
Right. So the likelihood is that there was a Becky that lived there. It's either earthbound or just something maybe happened in that room. That's really interesting to always get it in the same room. For sure. New England also has a big history of vampires, so the consumption vampires. And I believe you have a book on that as well.
Yeah.
We like that. Mercy Brown from
history.
some other of the sites. You could tell us a little bit.
Excuse me. Actually, the vampirism, like you said, it was consumption of tuberculosis. People actually believe that the dead, the ghosts, the spirits of their dead family relatives were rising from the grave and feeding on the life force of the family members and then returning to the grave. It was obviously consumption of tuberculosis, but they would become gaunt and pale, of course, and then they'd pass away, and it was very contagious. So it was passing it on. So now you got this disease, and you're kind of really you're very dizzy, you're very disoriented, and of course you're going to have like maybe hallucinations or. Of course, fear coming on, and you're claiming at night your brothers or sister is coming back and feeding on you. And they believe that as long as the body remained in whole in the grave, even if it was decomposing, that the family members would continue to feed upon the relatives. And it was a ghost of the grave. So what they would do is they would look for the signs of one of them who may have been a vampire. They didn't call it vampires till much later. They called it spectral ghouls. And then they would, if they found that person, they would remove the heart, the liver, the lungs. They would burn it to ashes, and then they would feed the ashes to the sick.
Yikes! Yeah, and I know Mercy had a pretty unfortunate incident, or her father did, when they burned her heart. Right? They removed her heart and mixed it with oil, and he drank it as a cure. In the Mercy Brown episode of Exeter, Rhode Island. But there were other vampires too. That I know I think you live in Connecticut, right? And Connecticut has a pretty big history of vampirism as well. And some of those stories we're not as familiar with, where they found bodies, I believe, decapitated, in people's yards or something. Many, in recent times.
Yeah, what happened was actually it was in Jewett City. They had Griswold, Connecticut. Jewett City is a village. They actually had another case there in the 1850s where they dug up the bodies of a couple of brothers to save another one, and they burned them. The newspapers were there, the Worcester Ages, the Current. They were all there to watch this and witness it. And then in 1991, some kids were sliding down a sandbank in Griswold when they uncovered a couple of skulls. And when the archaeologists came in, they uncovered one grave that had granite slabs around it. And yes, the head had been removed, the skull had been removed, and the femur bones, and made in a skull and crossbone pattern. That was JB 55. And they believe that it was done to save either IB 35 or NB 13, I think it was. And the numbers were the ages they presumably died.
Okay.
And what happened was, I guess, JB 55 was long dead, so they had to use a different way to exercise them. They just found out through DNA that JB 55 is Jonathan Barber, and NB 13 was Nathan Barber, who died in 1826.
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't know that.
No, wow.
And I do remember reading that story, and I think I even saw a picture of that where the bones were crossed right there, and they had to.
They make like the Jolly Roger sign.
It was pretty spooky.
Skull and bones, yeah.
Yeah, thing to uncover.
Yeah,
it's such a superstitious area. Older area of America, and a lot of superstitions seem to carry over from Europe, I think.
I know they still do it to this day in Romania.
Yeah, Romania still has a vampire problem.
Yeah.
They seem to not have the tuberculosis.
In 1784.
Go ahead.
In 1784, actually, one of the first cases was the Johnson family, and that was a Romanian doctor who prescribed the cure of digging up the coffins. So that's pretty interesting.
Wow.
Another Johnson.
Yeah,
this one.
Got Keith, my brother's from another mother, and yeah.
And she's Kristen Johnson, so that's interesting. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the
Oh, Simon Whipple.
Simon
That's what
Whipple.
we're going to bring up.
Yeah.
Simon Whipple that's around the corner from us here, I believe, right in the North Smithfield area, right at Union Cemetery, and I'm sure you've been there with the quote on his headstone.
It's right.
Yeah. Although consumption has seized my mortal frame, and I had some of it's kind of cut off because they've had to repair the stone.
Yeah, that's actually I've been there many times. In fact, we actually have 2 EVPs from there.
Come on.
Yeah, do you? It's a nice place. I like that there's all those woods and paths. We've been a couple of times, but we haven't explored the area surrounding it. You mentioned metal detecting earlier. Actually, last year we picked up a metal detector, and we kind of wanted to go out down those paths outside of the cemetery and check it out, and just to see if we could find any kind of relics or interesting things. I know we found like some old bottles and different things around there too.
Yeah.
It's been there for a very long time. It's an interesting area. Union Cemetery.
They have that part roped off, the older part.
Right.
Where this is.
Right. Because a lot of it's active, but I like the older section where Simon is and some of the other stones.
There's a lot of different families there. You can see the small burial lots where it was once a working cemetery.
That's right. The Aldrich families, and I think Simon was part of that. But you've been all over New England and documented all kinds of cases. Connecticut, New Hampshire. What do you find to be the most haunted? If you were to say that, what location is the most haunted to you in New England?
The division of motor vehicles. That's serious.
Yep, it probably is. There are ghosts still waiting, holding that number. B55. Just
that was an awesome answer.
No.
Thank you.
There are several actually since we've been doing this. There are. There's the Tavern on Main in Chepachet, Rhode Island. The Victorian in Gardner. The Public House is very active. That's amazingly active, more than anyone ever thought. So it's kind of Barra which is kind of creepy. The Village of Ghostly Voices, Ramtail. There's really a bunch of them that really just run neck and neck with each other.
Yeah, what is Barra I'm not familiar with that one.
Barra is it was founded in the late 1700s. It was basically 2 families: the Randall family from Rhode Island and the Higginbotham family. He was from Cranston also. They believe he was actually a British deserter, and he met a woman from Cranston, and they moved there, and they started the Higginbotham Spinning Wheel Mill. And I don't know if you can see this. Let me see. Get it over this way. Down there's a spinning wheel.
Oh yes.
And see a spinning wheel
and
a sewing machine type.
I believe it may have been a Higginbotham spinning wheel, but I'm not sure. It doesn't have his name on it. And anyway, Obadiah Higginbotham, they had several children, and the Randalls had several children. They have a burial ground there. The last burial was around 1890. But before that, some of the servants and help of the Randall family used to see things reclining in the big tree up there, the elm tree, and they'd hear voices and things like that. Now, as of the place being abandoned by 1890, Odell Shepard even wrote in his Harvest of a Quiet Eye in the 1920s that they heard voices. It sounded like cows still lowing and people still going about their daily chores around the land. And Paulino experienced it. And I had not even read about this stuff yet when I actually went there, and a friend of mine and we actually heard a wagon coming down the trail. And I'm thinking, we'll just tell them we're hiking, we're lost. I don't know if this is private property or what. And this sound of this wagon just went by us. We never saw anything.
Wow.
And the woods aren't thick. They're kind of rather sparse.
That's interesting.
The wheels and creaking go right by. How strange.
If you want to go and visit on October 2nd, You could sign up, go to the Pomfret Historical Society. And on October 22nd and October 23rd, October 2nd, I'm sorry, and October 23rd, they're having, you can sign up for it. It's like $10 each. They're going to tell a story of Barrahack, and then they're going to let you hike out to it.
Wow.
Interesting.
It's private property.
That's really cool.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
So we're going on October 2nd because we haven't been in a long time.
We'd love to do that.
Yeah, we'd love to do that, something like that. It's one I haven't heard of. I've heard about the public house and some of the other places you mentioned. The Colonial Inn.
Yeah, he's been wanting to take me there.
Yeah,
and stay in
that's one we've been wanting to get out to and do a little romantic getaway and investigating.
Yeah.
Well, room 40 is supposed to be the most haunted. They give us that room.
Like that.
Yeah, every time we stay there.
So it's room 40, right, babe? That's what you said to me, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's the one you want.
Room 40.
Yep.
Oh, we're on it. We're going to hit that sooner or later. It looks like a beautiful area, a nice place to relax and take in some scenery. We got some cool clocks in there.
Yeah, that's just one. I rebuild I rebuild old clocks, so we have over like 15 of these that make noise around the house.
Oh, that's really cool.
My grandparents used to do that as well.
Yeah, that can't be the easiest thing to do. They're doing clock repairs.
Cogs and wheels.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. That just brings us around to like haunted objects. Have you come across any haunted clocks or haunted objects?
Actually, yeah, we have before. There's a few we've come across, and we got rid of them. The clocks, I'm not so sure because I'm rebuilding them. The only, I guess, one that might be a curse to me is this one sitting on the chin next to me because no matter how much I try to fix it, it doesn't want to run. So it's haunted that way. But we actually have come across haunted. We collect antiques. Like a lot of the stuff in this house is from the 1700s, 1800s. So we kind of bless everything when it comes in.
That's a great idea to do.
That's interesting. How do you go about that with the blessing?
We smudge. Yeah, we smudge the. We'll smudge. We'll say a couple of blessings, that kind of thing.
I think you mentioned that you use things like divination tools sometimes as well, and we do, and we're real open to those things. When you're in a location that you're trying to talk to spirit. So is that something you've always used? Things like divining rods or tarot cards?
Yes, and we've had astounding results with them. Number one, the tarot cards. If you're talking to somebody from 1780, you're not going to say, "Hey, speak into this microphone and light up that Ixalakamaka meter." They don't know what that is. But they do know tarot cards and they do know dowsing rods.
Oh, that's really interesting. So how do you do that with like the tarot cards? You do a layout or walk us through that process of using tarot cards on an investigation.
Arlene actually is a gifted tarot reader, and she is incredible. And what she does is that's what she does. If there's other people, she'll have them each concentrate and pick a card, and then in the order they're picking them, she starts to build the stories and questions. And it's really cool because one of the ones was when we did it at Ramtail, and she comes across, I forgot which card it was, but it says, she says, "Okay, who's in charge of the finances? I see a woman is in charge of the finances. We got an EVP that said Aura." And Aura Potter, when Only Potter died suddenly, Aura Potter and Catherine Potter actually became in charge of the mill.
Wow.
All right.
Aura was actually Dolly Cole's daughter.
Okay.
All right.
Heard that name before.
And Dolly Cole Brook, that's over by there, right? I think there is some tragedies associated with that on its own, if I'm not mistaken.
There's some legends about Dolly Cole being a witch and a vampire and being murdered. But Dolly Cole lived to be, I think, 96 years old or something, or 90 years old. Her husband, Hugh Cole, died pretty young, but she lived to be a very old age. Her ghost is thought to be seen near the river and all that, but we found out going forward, which is like one of the very first apparitions I ever saw when I was 12, that it's Betsy Grayson who haunts that area.
Okay.
She died tragically in 1860 while trying to fetch water from the stream in a wooden bucket, and the bucket dragged her in and she hit her head and drowned. She also used to squat at Ramtail.
Wow.
Wow.
That's interesting. Yeah, there is something about those lands, and I don't know if it's a combination of tragedies or misfortunes, but it's so interesting because Foster is so rural. It's not a place you would picture in modern times even supporting a factory of any sort. And I guess people abandoned it when it closed. And yeah, do they also have a fire? Maybe,
Yeah.
I think so.
They actually, it's kind of funny because David Wilkinson, who was also the father of the American Tool, he married Samuel Slater's sister. And the Wilkinson Mill at Slater Mill, the one next to it, that Wilkinson family, Smith Wilkinson, his brother, is the one who originally built the Cargill Falls Mill here in Putnam. And he actually owned the Ramtail factory at some point, right after Pele Walker died.
Wow, that's very interesting. And Slater Mill, for those that don't know, is another area considered to be haunted. And no, I've taken those tours like many years ago, and Carl Johnson would host them. They have it's sort of a museum now, or was. I'm not sure if it is now. I'm not sure if it's open anymore. But they had all the machinery that they had the child workers working on and these things. And of course, child labor was a thing back in 1800. So it wasn't unusual to see an 8-year-old, crawling around machinery to unhinge something because their hands and bodies are small enough to get into that machinery, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. There was no teenage years. Let's say there was no teenage years. If you were at 6 years old, they considered you around the age of reason. So they began teaching you to, do stuff. And the children could work, make some money for the families, and could get underneath those machines really quickly. We actually, the Parks Division or something like that, bought Slater Mill. Now we're actually doing a Zoom presentation thing about Slater Mill. It's coming up. You can look on our website, and it's going to be really cool because we're going to be talking about all the findings, because we did 7 or 8 investigations there with people, like whole nights where we took people in and did 20-minute, half-hour investigations like 4 times during one night. And we did get a couple of EVPs. We got one EVP, a child screaming, "Help me."
Oh.
And it came out of the portal, too, so it wasn't like fake. Yeah,
that's
I got to keep everyone posted on that one.
Good reason for the help me's that we were talking about earlier, right?
Right.
Like something bad did happen.
Yeah.
The children certainly working in there.
We think about that a lot. Is it like you were saying earlier with the help me's? They'll say like, "Help me, Kristen," or "Help me, Chris," or something, and a lot of times they're like, "Well, how can we help you?" And is it a residual, like you were saying, or we have no idea. We actually tried something ourselves to cross over a child spirit, and we don't even know if it's a child spirit. Could have been stepped into a role from
roles, and we
Mm.
feel like a lot of these hauntings, at least that are more the active nature, where you're getting interactive answers, that we feel spirits, or whatever they are sometimes stepping into a role, taking on the child. I mean, there's so many child spirits out there. Every town has one, that hangs around a certain cemetery, and there's usually some legend about a hanging or something that maybe is attributed to that we feel like they know that, or somehow are able to get that information from us and portray themselves that way and want to be heard.
That would make sense.
It just seems odd that there's so many, and sometimes it's also with like the evil spirits, or the D word, so to speak, where they're using terminology or trying to come across as something they maybe necessarily aren't. And I don't know. We just want to figure it all out.
Yeah, that's something. Science.
A lot of questions. We're very fortunate that we get to host a show and talk to people like yourself, and try to find out what your experience is like, and what you think. Because
pick your brain. What do you think?
Try to put it all together, try to figure it out. Though nobody really has all the answers. We're
all just trying.
We're on a quest to know.
Yeah.
What are these?
As far as
Go ahead.
As far as the children thing, though, don't forget, children, like when we were young, we were a little more innocent. We were a little more open. And if you die as a child, you may not know you're dead. I don't know, You may not realize your energy might be strong and powerful. You haven't been societized yet. And, so these might play in a factor of why they come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Maybe
We're not
sad that you didn't get a chance to live a life.
Spirits. We just don't know. It just seems like spirits sometimes fall into roles, or hauntings do.
Trickster spirits. They basically are trying to trick you that,
Yeah, we don't think it's 100% exclusive.
Yeah, that could be too.
Yes.
But I think maybe it happens some of the time. It's hard to say.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Pranksters.
Yeah.
Yeah, pranksters.
We, there's a place, if you've ever been to the Crown and Eagle Mill in Uxbridge, it's haunted. It's the remains of the mill were rebuilt upon, and it's like an apartment complex. But there's a little walkway if you're looking at the mill, it's on the left side, that will take you to what used to be the Whiten family mansion. And in that mansion area is a big round brick area that used to be their parking, where they park their car, and also like their porch thing, portico, patio, and all that. They turned that. There's a giant fountain there of an angel. You'll see it, so you can't miss it. They turned that into a area where there's bricks of all children who died in the Blackstone Valley. There's a brick for them, their birth date and death date, and it's very interesting. We were there, and we had one of them balls, those light up balls.
Yeah.
We put it down near the brick. We asked them if they wanted to play. And within, I'd say, about a minute, the ball started rolling. Now, it's not going to roll by itself because, as you know, those light up balls got square sides, so it's not round. And also, you can't make it light up when you're standing on bricks.
Right.
And it was bizarre. It was awesome. But I don't know whether it was a child trying to communicate, but some people see the ghost of a little girl going through their backyard, which is just off of where that is, like about 15, 20 yards from that big monument, or whatever you want to call it, is these people's backyard, which also contains remnants of the Whiten mansion in it. And they see this little girl wandering through there all the time.
Wow.
Huh?
So it's pretty interesting.
Is that open to the public?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, you can walk your dogs there. People hike it, and they walk back and forth. Yep.
Oh, that's interesting. You mentioned that it had all the children that died in Blackstone. Was it a certain event that happened that caused the children to perish?
No, it's actually... It's like if you have a child and they passed away, you can have a brick put in there.
Oh,
okay.
I see. Oh, wow.
That's
touching.
really cool. Yeah, it's so sweet.
I'd like to visit that. We should.
I wrote it down.
Beautiful.
Do that.
Beautiful. That's cool. So, what are you working on now? Do you have another book coming out, or what have you been up to?
We're actually I'm working on two books. One is called Cradling Crypt. It's birth and death practices, superstitions, all kinds of things like that from early New England. How they treated childbirth from the moment that the woman was known to become pregnant, and how they treated death and funeral services, how young childhood, the dangers, superstitions regarding birth and death, and all kinds of things like customs. It's really great. It's interesting. It covers stone carvers, even why you have the certain carvings on the graves and stones and in the ears.
We
even
went
get some grave writing.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. I grab a book. I've got some older books back here that talk about the cemetery art, which is a really interesting topic in itself. How a town or an area would have like one particular carver, and it's kind of why when you go into the different cemeteries, older cemeteries, you'll see the same sort of art style on most of the stones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, in Sturbridge, if you go to the public house, the cemetery next to it has several different North Shore carvers works there, so it's really cool. Jonathan Worcester, Gershom Bartlett, Josiah Manning. Yeah, there's really a bunch of them. It's really cool.
This was an interesting, I'm sure, out of print book that I have in my collection. It's called Early New England Gravestone Rubbings, and it's all just rubbings from different stones around New England, and you can kind of follow the art.
The book's just the book's just to my side here. Which side? Right here behind me. Mm-hmm. This side. That's one of them in there. I have 7 or 8 of them on early New England gravestones. Miss Meriwether Forbes, Alan Ludwig, that one, a whole bunch of different ones.
Sure, and I think one of the first questions I'll have is like, what do the symbols mean? What is a death head, and why do I see a vase or anything like that? Do you want to tell us about any of that history?
Yeah, actually the death head were originally because it was you were conquering death, the physical body dying, the soul going to heaven, and because that's what the wings were all about too. And then they started using different things, like different carvers after the Great Awakening, which was, Puritans were like very strict, but they had great carvings and sayings on their stones. But after the Great Awakening, people started just making like artists, making their own things, like Jonathan Worcester with the head that looks like a balloon with the 2 eyes and the long nose. Jacob Vinnell, who has like a bird-like faces. So these guys started having their own like a Picasso or a Rembrandt type things in their grave carvings. But they all still had that same theme. The cherubs flying to heaven. The urn took over in the early 1800s as a symbol of, the willow in the urn, the everlasting, the willow, and the urn being a thing of funerary. So, the symbolism changed as with religious thoughts and beliefs toward funerals. But those early ones with the wings and the death heads, they were basically saying that, this is the soul being freed and flying to heaven. Hopefully.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you see a finger pointing up, and I think at one time, and I don't remember what it was, I saw one pointing down, which was probably a little bit of the person buried there. I forget where that was. That was
probably one of our relatives.
Could have been.
That was another one. Yeah, the finger pointing up.
I find that art just
it's quite interesting.
Yeah,
it is.
The graves look like bedposts because they originally were bed rails. When they buried them on. They put wooden rails across, and then the original looking like the bed, old bedposts because of this eternal sleep and everything, which is pretty interesting.
Very.
That's cool. I didn't actually know that. So that's really neat. I think New England has just the best old headstones, probably because it is a little older than other parts of the country. That there is. I mean, it's all over New England. You can go out to Cape Cod, and it's amazing cemeteries out there, and I find it really just relaxing to go and take walks to them. We love doing that. The Provincetown cemeteries are awesome, huh? Yeah,
I think it's a Miles Standish Cemetery or something.
I know there's quite a few pilgrims buried through Cape Cod. There was one I lived down there for a time. I'm trying to think of what part it was. It wasn't Provincetown, but there are a lot of old cemeteries down there, and you can come across things like pilgrims buried and whatnot. Originally came over on the Mayflower.
Yeah, it's that part. Well, that's the beginning of America there. So what the heck?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just gorgeous. And you also have a book on ghost ships. I found that intriguing. In fact, I made the background of this episode sort of the Flying Dutchman there behind us, so you can see part of it. Anyways, these pictures aren't so good because, of course, we take up the pictures. But I don't know much of the lore surrounding the ghost ships around New England. Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, obviously, New England coast is home to, like, they don't even know how many shipwrecks, but thousands. And there's several ships that people have witnessed over the years. Of course, one of them being the Teaser, the another one being what they call the Palatine Light, which is actually the Princess Augusta, out in near Block Island. And there's several of these ships that disappeared, and then people have seen them and come back, basically. And one of the earliest ones was, I guess, the ship, the New Haven ghost ship, that left New Haven way back, like in the late 1600s, and never came back. They never heard from it. But then all of a sudden, one day they see this ship coming, and it starts falling apart, and in a giant cloud and all that, and they realized it was their New Haven ship. Then what Jonathan Davenport said, it was the mold of their ship that had come back.
Wow.
And did it actually,
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. We take a lot of stuff for granted growing up around here, but the Victorian houses around New England on the waterfronts often have like what they call a widow's walk, which is a sort of room or area on the roof of the house where the wife would look and wait for her husband to return from sea, because we had a whaling industry in New England at one time.
Or a widow's watch.
Widow's watch, maybe that's what it is. Is that the right term?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also the captains or owners of the merchants of the ships too might use them if they had, because they weren't going out to sea looking for their ships to come back too. The Charles Morgan in Mystic Seaport is also haunted. That's the last wooden whaling ship known in the world.
Wow, I didn't know that either.
Oh,
wow.
No, I haven't been there yet either. That's pretty cool. Very interesting to imagine these ships just rolling in and then just kind of vanishing. A little like the movie The Fog, which I was a big fan of growing up.
Yeah. The original or the remake?
The original.
Yeah.
But yeah, the remake's all right too.
Yeah.
So in your book,
That was a cool movie.
You were talking about, it sounds like a really great book, and I can't wait to get this because with the indigenous and everything people that you're talking about. What else do you have in it?
Oh, with the superstitions.
Yes.
The new one coming out. Yeah, what were some of those superstitions, I guess?
Yes.
Oh.
That we were mentioning the birth and death.
Oh my God! It's something like if they used to cover the mirrors. They used to cover mirrors because if you look into a mirror, you would be the next to die. And if a dog howled outside your window at midnight, you would die. There was so many these superstitions. There's the telling of the bees. A lot of the farms had beehives to pollinate their crops. And when a member of the family died, it was a job of the eldest of the family to go out and tell the bees that a member of the family had died, or else they feared that the bees would come and kill another member.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
never
these kind of superstitions.
Wow.
That's intriguing.
Yeah, there's a ton of them.
Were they mostly like harbingers of death, or were there other reasons too that these superstitions would
I think maybe
birth and death?
Yeah, I think maybe they were maybe harbingers of death, but I think a lot of them were born from something happening after something happening, a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fear, the early New Englanders were very fearful of a lot of things. And, a lot of uncertainties because it was a uncharted land for many years. And, you go even into the 1800s, you're still digging places, starting places. You had all kinds of obstacles to overcome, the wild animals, the Indians who didn't really particularly care for a lot of the people intruding on their camps and things, which were, they needed to live. And it was just that kind of thing. So a lot of superstitions were born from all that.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. People didn't have electricity. They were working by candlelight, nighttime in the woods outside of your house or cabin or whatever you built.
Right.
Shelter. It had to be a spooky place.
Yeah, very dark. I'm sure they had better eyes than we do now, because having to be sharper to see in the darkness, like we don't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they say the origins of the pareidolia is that, we need to distinguish human faces from backgrounds, and our minds will actually form those faces, because we need to identify whether, another tribe even is a friendly or looking at you, wanting to kill your tribe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're what we call socialized now, but I'm not so sure how, socialized it is, but,
Right.
as we, I guess, evolved, a lot of these things disappeared that would make us more in tune with nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to clip like that, in tune.
One of the books I noticed that you had was called Haunted Litchfield County, but I'm not sure where that is. Where is Litchfield County? Is that in Connecticut?
Yeah, that's actually Western Connecticut. It's a very large county, and it's not very popular. It's sparsely populated, I should say, comparatively. But we've come to find out as we were writing the book that there are a lot of really cool stories and haunts there. But that's the upper Western Connecticut area.
Oh, I see. You've got a lot of New England coverage in there in these books, and I look forward to digging into some of these, because the areas that, even though they're not that far from us, we're just not that familiar with. It's kind of like you take things, like I was mentioning before, you take things for granted. We're growing up with like Lizzie Borden house being 10 minutes away or something, and it not going a whole lot because it's just you're used to it. So it's good to dig in and get real stories and background in these different areas. New England seems to be full of haunted locations.
We actually still find lots of them. We love it. That's why we love doing the books, because we start researching. And with Litchfield County, we knew Dudleytown, maybe 2 or 3 other places, the Yankee Peddler. And then we started researching, finding these wild stories and things like that. And it just opened wide up. It was great. We never knew half more than half of those stories. So we decided to do the book.
Wow, it's really interesting. Now, when you say we, you mean you and your wife, right?
Yeah, Arlene. Yeah, we travel together. We do everything together.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we love paranormal couples. I find that fascinating that you do this stuff, and
I think she's still working upstairs.
You guys do these investigating together, which it's wonderful. That's a nice thing. Then you research it together. And how did you guys meet? And I think you mentioned you grew up in the same town.
We did, but I was teaching guitar, and she came in, and she wanted to have her son take guitar lessons. And she came into our store, and that was it. Boom! I fell in love. And we were best friends for 15 years. Yeah, we were best friends for 15 years, and then we both actually were married. We both got divorced about the same time, and then we started dating. Got married a year later on Halloween.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Did you have a Halloween theme at your wedding?
Yeah, 20 years.
Wow.
Wow, congratulations. Goodness.
Yeah, it actually took place at the Tavern on Main in Chepachet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
A haunted location you mentioned earlier. And did she also have similar experiences and stuff growing up that made her inclined to want to find out about the paranormal?
Not really. She at first, she used to, when we were just friends, she'd come with me to a few places and everything, but she thought I was mostly just a whack nut. And then when we got together and started investigating, then things started happening.
And once she could see it for herself, she was probably like, "Oh, yeah, I see.
I understand now.
I understand now."
Yeah.
That's basically how I, grew into this, we'll say.
Yeah, it took me quite a while to get.
Yeah, well,
because of actually her.
I've been doing it now for 39 years. So
showing our age.
yeah. So I mean,
How is that
yeah,
possible?
I know. Huh? Well, I'm 40.
Yeah, how's that possible for all 25 here?
Come on.
39 years. You're talking
There
about
we go.
that's what it is. Past lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, and I've seen a lot, and I've seen a lot of nothing. So, it's whatever. Yeah, they don't put on a show for you. We go to some places, and someone will go, "Oh my God, that's the most haunted place in the world," and nothing happened. And I'm like, well, no, they're not going to put on a show.
It's so true. It's very true.
Yeah, we live in an on-demand world. We can just click and watch the latest movie on our TV or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think people are inclined that way, but you can put a lot of hours in for nothing. I was mentioning with the data review earlier, that's like the hardest part, sitting there listening and trying not to drift and get through 6 hours of recordings or whatever it is, or more. You bring in cameras and video, and you've got several cameras laid out, and you're there. If you're there 8 hours, times however many cameras, that's a lot of video.
Yeah, when we do the ghost hunt dinners, we have the 4 rooms, 4 cameras. I got to look at all that too. So
Yeah.
you never know what's happening.
We do
It's so
less
true.
stuff, Kristen and I, than I used to do, like on paranormal teams, or just would try to break out this data between the team and stuff, and it just seems so inundating. It can be the hardest part. We try to just get in, get out, do our thing, get our recordings, and it's still a little tedious getting through that, but for the most part, it's not as bad. Right?
Yeah.
No 100 hours of video
And
to
audio.
watch.
And listen to. Yeah.
We, Arlene and I, we really never were part of a group. We were just us.
I like that better. That's it. We're our team.
That's it.
That's what we do.
Put
And
the bunny in. Yeah.
nothing against the people on teams, and I have lots of friends on them and all that kind of stuff, and that's a great way to go, and there's a nice community with that. But it is wonderful to have a partner that's interested in it as well, and it goes with you, and partakes in the fun.
Yeah, and actually, she edits the books.
Well, there you go
good.
too. See, she keeps you
Very
on the
good.
straight and narrow. It's like this
Yeah.
one. I start to drift on topic. She'll be like, "Hey, it's right here in the notebook. We were going to talk about Rantel."
Yeah. Get it over here.
Yeah.
Keeps me in line.
Got the secret squirrel notes going on. Listen to me.
So you got to.
We like to write. When I write the original drafts, I actually use, like an old dip feather pen, and I make my own ink.
That's so cool.
And then I put it on the computer. Yeah, and then I put it on the computer, and then she edits it. I read it. I fix anything. Then she'll edit it again. Then we'll send it into them, and by the time the publisher gets it, they're like, "Wow, there's not many corrections here."
Wow.
Wow, that's really
interesting. You write it in the ink. What is that? Does that set the tone for you? Does it help you get into the mood of it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I love it. I have a whole set of feather pens and homemade ink, and I have old fountain pens that I use. In fact, this one, where is it? The 1926 Waterman.
Oh, goodness.
Same pen H.P. Lovecraft used.
Oh wow.
Wow. That's wild.
When H.P. Lovecraft died, this was the pen he was using. His pen disappeared. I wish I could find it, but this pen he owned.
Oh yeah, that would be valuable, I'm sure.
Mm.
If we could find that at this point. That's an interesting way and method. You do a lot of research. can you give people out there that are trying to become better researchers maybe some tips on where to go? Because Google is not the answer for everything,
No.
right? If you really want to learn about a certain location, what are some of the things that you do to research or tools?
Oh, we just make stuff up and everybody believes it.
Oh, there you go.
But historical societies, always great. Libraries, and what you can look up little things on, like on Google, but they're only like tidbits that might give you an opening or an avenue. You can't really believe what people put.
No.
It seems like Wikipedia is people putting stuff on there.
Right.
And so we'll go like historical societies, we'll go to libraries, we'll go to, I have in this room here, I have over 2,000 books on New England history, from legends to old town histories and county histories, things like that. And so I use them. And then also we rely on a lot of people that we know who might, tell us to some other people and send things here. Old newspapers. So it is a lot of, I've spent like a week on one name just trying to find out why that name was written into something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you like use the microfiche and stuff? That's always fun.
Yeah, in fact, I love the Greenville Public Library because they have the old microfiche machine that you start up and it reels through, and it's got the big screen on it.
Yeah,
I remember
things like that, and you can stop it and run it. And I actually have one down cellar in my cellar.
no kidding.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kids today don't understand the Dewey Decimal System and how that was our
Nothing.
Google growing up,
Yeah.
But there's still, I can't say it enough. There's so much stuff written that is not available on the internet.
Exactly. Like you said, like
To actually get in the library and
Mhm.
read a book, and search for things that way. I think that's great advice because there's just so much. I mean, we've done it. Don't do it all the time, but a few times we've gone and researched, found old books in libraries about certain locations we were checking out or whatever.
land
It was
ownership,
always,
how it became,
like
and,
way more information that we just never saw anywhere.
right.
Plus, a lot of that information is off. It's not correct. And with the Ramtail factory, in fact, is a good example of that. Googling it, I've found that a lot of people have seen those lights in that other structure that we were talking about at the front of the show, and they thought it was the mill because they didn't know, and they were talking about like maybe there were floorboards here, and it was clearly not the same where the mill was. It
It's
was
misinformation.
it's in a different area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they talk, I see everything about Peleg getting, where he got into the argument and that he was a owner with his brothers, 3 brothers or something like that. I don't know where it all comes from, but it started somewhere and just, I guess, veined off into this way, that way, into different branches. But yeah, actually, a lot of all the stuff actually in that book that has all the documentation came from the town hall. Is another great thing. Town halls have all those deeds, records, people, this, that, and the other thing, and they actually, they're free. You can go look at them. They as a person of the United States of America, you have the right to go into a town hall and look up their historic records for free. In libraries, they have the old books, the Arnold books with all the death records and the birth records and the marriage records and all that. The libraries is the greatest free resource we have in this country.
Hey, we can't agree more.
It is certainly
Certainly
a
is.
wonderful database, and I feel like it's untapped a little bit these days. These things are just not being used. Everything is, in a way, we have a lot more information available to us with the internet and that thing and just sheer volume, but it's not always the accurate information.
Yeah, that's the thing. I like when I do research, I like to go back right as far as possible. I mean, like some of these books I have in here, most of them were written in the 1800s.
Wow.
And then they go up to 1920s. You know, some like the grave book you just showed. Of course, that's newer, but a lot of these county things and a lot of these stories, they go back. Wow, going back like, oh my God, this is the same story I read in someone's book, and here it is, the original one in 1856.
Right.
That's a thrill to find too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as our friend Kenny's saying, that spent hours in the library back in the day. Books are a beautiful resource. That's
Absolutely.
right, Kenny. They really are, and often underused by our generations that are coming up. But you know, maybe they'll get something another way to do it. I don't know. Maybe we sound just like our parents. Those dang kids.
Ugh.
Get to the library.
Whenever they have book sales, I go. Whenever they have, whenever we see anything like that, oh my God, there's like we'll stop books. I want to, we get start going right through the books to see what we can find. Old bookstores.
Yeah. And you
Especially
mentioned historical societies.
Yeah.
And a lot of paranormal end up working in those historical societies or around them. I've noticed, whatever part of the country they're in, it just seems like a thing because they're closer to that history, and they're a great source of history, certainly, and documented stories about towns and areas. Almost every town has a historical society, so that's something people should reach out for too.
That is a great resource. Yes.
Our next historical society is going to be the Blackstone Valley one. It's down here. Yes.
One there in Lincoln. And I think they have events there once in a while. A lot of them were closed due to COVID, and I moved back to Rhode Island last year. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that's real close by. You're probably familiar with that. Right off of 146, there's a Blackstone historical.
I've done a few events there, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Awesome.
We're looking forward to visiting that. And I don't know why we actually haven't got to that yet, speaking of this.
Because of COVID. Because they were closed.
Yeah,
that's exactly why.
Vaccination, stuff like that. Yeah.
And now we're busy, so.
Yeah, now we got other things going on. That's why we got the shirts.
Yeah, I'm also a life member of the Forster Preservation Society, so.
Oh, that's really cool. Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, we're part of several societies, Arlene and I, and we help people. When we lived in Rhode Island, we used to help the Cemetery Association find lost cemeteries.
Oh, wow.
Nice. I've seen some of those, and they're also the people that tend to go and clean them and repair the stones as well.
Yes.
That's great. I love when I see that work. I know it's tragic. Some of the places, like we were in Elder Baloo not too long ago, and in Cumberland, Rhode Island, and that's there's so many damaged stones there from kids and that sort of thing. It's almost like a tragedy.
To see.
Yeah.
They don't respect anything. We go and we clean up after them and everything, and take bags with us.
We leave with more stuff than we go in with.
Always.
Given trip, and I think that's a good role. Take some back.
Yeah, Arlene has the habit of picking up with all the flowers that fall, the one that from the wind or whatever.
Yeah, we do.
And then they have the water thing. She'll bring a jug and she'll be filling them with the whatever the little water spigots and stuff.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, so a 5-minute walk turns into like a 45-minute walk.
Awesome.
That's great. So, what's next for you? When is the new book come out? And what are maybe some of the Dining with the Dead events that are coming up?
We're working on the books, but we're also working on one. It's a complete book of all witches in New England, not only just the Salem accused ones, but all the legended ones from Rhode Island and all over. And next Dining with the Dead event is September 29th at the Public House. It's a Wednesday night, 6 o'clock, and you can go to our website and you'll see the links that'll take you to Eventbrite. Or you can go to the Facebook page, Dining with the Dead 1031. And then October 14th, we're at the Colonial Inn in Concord.
Yeah, we're going to have to go.
Yeah, we're going to be bumping into one of these events because you're going to all the places we want to go to.
There you go.
It sounds awesome. I love that.
We want to do the tavern. Oh, we want to do the tavern on Main. We're just waiting for Dave to feel like it's okay, because of the COVID things. He's not sure if Rhode Island is going to pump restrictions up again or not.
Right.
So we keep everyone posted on that one.
Okay, great.
Yeah, sometimes it's a day-by-day thing. And I believe 16 books available out there, and different formats. Which is the best place for people to get them and browse them and purchase said books, besides your mom and pop shop, which was always
yeah. You can go to Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and you can call local bookstores like the small independent bookshops like Innis Free Books. You can go there's different places. They're in Sturbridge. We've actually seen them in Cracker Barrel restaurants.
Oh,
Yeah, and so they're all over. You can just look up your local bookstore and call and see if they got it.
right on.
Wonderful.
Right on. I like that. But at last resort, we can always go to the online retailers as well. We support our local shops if possible, but
we also sell them on our site. You can go to our site and you can go to the store and buy them, and we don't charge for shipping. So we ship it to you for free, but we also personalize it so you can get it right there and then. If you wanted to say, make it out to Ingram, blah, 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 this and that, we do that, and then the shipping is free.
oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Would people go to tomdagostino.com or Dining with the Dead?
Dining with the Dead, 1031.
1031.
Yeah. Oh, here's Arlene.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, Arlene.
I just,
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm sorry. I just got home.
Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi,
nice
Arlene.
to meet you.
Hi. It's so nice meeting you.
Wonderful meeting you.
You want to sit?
Sure, I'll sit for a
Okay,
minute.
you can sit.
Okay.
You sit, I'll stand. There.
So, have you guys been talking about me?
Yeah, we certainly have. We understand you like to clean cemeteries as much as we do.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Do you do a lot of that?
Well, not a lot, but we leave with more than we go in.
Yeah, we
mean,
take a
just-
bag with us and we clean up the trash and things. So
Any beer bottles or anything else that the kids have left out there, we try to be.
I know. Oh, absolutely. I can never walk by and leave trash. It's the same thing here. I'll straighten out flowers and I water them. It takes us a long time to walk through a cemetery.
that's what Tom just said. What a 5-minute walk takes you about 45 minutes. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
We think that's great. And, we're obviously a couple ourselves, and we love the idea of couples in the paranormal. And you become your own team, if you will. And
Exactly. Right.
experience.
And I mean, we really work really well together. We
Oh, tell me, Thomas, you do tarot readings on some of these investigations, and do a spread.
Right. Yeah. I usually have, if I'm doing an event, I usually have the guests, select a card. And I try to have, if we have a small group, I'll have, everybody, select a card. And I'll just, it's not like I'm dealing them out. So I actually literally take the cards, mess them up on the table so they're, all, spread out. So any card can be selected. And then I'll just give like a quick reading of what that could mean and how it relates to the place that we're in. And at that point, everybody starts asking questions. And they're more directed questions than just, what year is it? It's more direct to the point where, I'll get a male figure who was, a very powerful man in business and that sort of thing. So, we'll ask, say at the public house, Mr. Crafts, can that be you? And, what happened? And so, it works out pretty well. It really does.
It seems like an interactive way to do it, and great with an audience, and it's definitely unique and very cool.
very unique. We like the unique things.
Oh, thank you.
Love that.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
We're
we did it as an experiment and, it worked out. So, we just kept doing it. And, the success we've had is, I'm really humbled by it, really. It's like, wow.
It sounds like a good time, and you guys go a lot of the places we want to go to, so we're pretty sure we're going to bump into you at some point and do the Dining with the Dead
Yes.
and do this. We'd love to take
Yes.
Can't wait to do
and
that.
I think that involves food. I'm in, No
Oh,
problem.
yeah.
We'll take you to a tour of Ramtail, show you where all the buildings are.
I love
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
we would absolutely.
Absolutely.
You would have a blast.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, it's been
It would
wonderful
be
talking
awesome.
to you guys. And see a few more shout outs in the audience there. Hey, Gail, how you doing? And Ken also here uses Uno cards for divination sometimes.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's different.
Oh, that
Yeah,
is.
But very cool. Very
Yes.
cool. Thanks, Ken. Gail Heisen. Love the shirts, guys. Just tuned in. Love you. Love you too, Gail. So that was so cool. And this has been a lot of fun. We really appreciate taking the time to
Yes,
talk with us.
thank you again.
Oh, thank you.
Had some internet issues at the front of things, but we're kind of getting through it. I think the delay's finally gone.
Yeah. It figures there's like 15 minutes left,
I know,
not even, and the
we were
delay is
doing
like
so good. And then, we go live and then everything goes to hell. But so goes the internet. But it's wonderful to meet you guys. And we'll definitely talk after the show and set something up. I'd love to get together sometime.
That would be so great.
awesome. Yeah.
Yes. We'd love it.
great. Thank you.
So that's all we got for Bigfoot and the Bunny this week. We don't know what we're doing next week because we're going to be at a Paracon and we're still trying to figure out how we're going to do the show and be there at the same time. So
Yeah.
with the more details to follow, be sure to check out Bigfoot and the Bunny on Facebook to see what the next show will be. And once again, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank
We'll see
you very much.